Hi, everyone. My name is Katherine Skaggs, and I'm going to give a talk today on shamanism and creativity, a spiritual map for navigating these crazy times that we're in. I am an artist of the Mythical Goddess Tarot, as well as many soul portraits and visionary pieces of art, as well as the author of a newly released book called The Artist Shaman Healer Sage. For the last, I don't know how many years, I've been doing 14 years, I've been working with shamanism, with shamans from around the world, training multiculturally. That's some of my foundation, along with 35, almost 40 years now of being a metaphysician, of learning dream interpretation and all universal laws and truths, some mystical practices to increase my intuition, access the akashic records, and just deepen my own journey here spiritually. And that's what ultimately led me to shamanism, is all the practices, all the things that I've been doing. I had some personal crisis happen and I needed something extra. And I was guided to work with Sandra Ingerman, which led me to work with Jose and Lena Stevens of the Power Path School of Shamanism, which led me to work with the Shipibo shamans from the jungles of Peru, as well as the Huichols from central Mexico, Andean traditions from high in the Andes in Peru, as well as other multicultural practices, particularly Native American, around the medicine wheel. And, finding where Hinduism and Buddhism and ancient Egypt teachings, mystery schools, all intersect. They all have something to do with the same thing. We have these universal wisdom and truths here. And so I'm here to share this because I know it's pertinent to you. I know it's pertinent to the people you work with, and it's pertinent to what you want to give the world. I found through my journeys that, first of all, working on healing myself and being awake is the most important thing. And from that, all these practices beyond myself can contribute to students, can contribute to my family and friends, and the world at large and humanity, because we're in a massive change and transformation. One of the things that we are going through in this time is a massive shift. Some of you may know this. Some of you, most of you probably do know this who are watching this, is that we are in the end of a huge cycle that I consider 25, 26,000 year cycle from all that I've learned and studied, the Kali Yuga in Hinduism, the end times in Christianity, the end of the fifth world or the end of the fourth world, depending on which tradition that you're reading about. The Hopi, the Navajo, and other native tribes have talked about this time, that we're ending a huge cycle. And from all appearances, to me, the majority of humanity, well, all of humanity, is going through a cycle to graduate to a new level of consciousness. As a species, I'd say we're kind of moving into junior high or high school, maybe into college, but we are definitely at a place of more light coming in, and it's causing a lot of shift. And people are freaking out. We've got a collapse of so many systems, so many things going on that's been prophesied through many traditions, indigenous peoples and other peoples, for a very long time. And that with that, you're finding that there is a resurgence in shamanism. Perhaps you've already been called there, or maybe you know a lot of your people have been called there. I was called in 2007. And with my spiritual studies, I thought for sure I would have been called many, many moons earlier. And it never lined up. I thought I would work with a Lakota, a Navajo person. Never happened. I met multiple Native peoples. I sold books in my own store in the 90s. And yet, that never came to fruition until I went through another crisis in my life in 2006. And that sent me on my personal journey. And so you'll find through these crazy, difficult times, people are seeking spirituality more than ever before. We've seen it for years and years and years, coming more and more popular: mind, body, spirit, spiritual paths, Celtic shamanism, Native American shamanism, South American shamanism, Siberian shamanism. There's a complete resurgence of coming back to the earth, finding the spirituality in nature, trying to find a way to get back to a calmer, more peaceful self, and nature helps us do that. And finding indigenous peoples' plant medicines, smudging, their practices, working with the medicine wheel, to just come home and be more balanced, to be at peace again, because our external reality is too productive. It's a linear model. I've talked about the patriarchy many times. I'm the artist of the Mythical Goddess Tarot, I think I said earlier, and I've done a lot of goddess teachings as a result of that over the years, and find that, we are in a time where we want to step away from our linear productive model. It's not all about money. It's all not about how much we can make and then get to the end of our lives and go, I worked my whole life. People are tired. Young people, middle aged people, old people. It's like we all want to have a simpler life. We still want to be abundant, but we need to settle in to be centered and grounded. And Mother Earth and the cosmos all offer that through various indigenous teachings from around the world. And you'll find too that they're universal. Just as I studied universal law and truth in my metaphysical teachings, all that lines up with where it came from, with everything I've learned with the indigenous people I've studied with the last 14 years. There is no separation. There is all an overlay, whether you're in South America, North America, or Siberia. You'll find that the same teaching in metaphysics that I got of you create your own reality is spoken of in shamanism as you are the dreamer of your reality. That this is an illusion here. This is a dream that we're in, and you're the architect of that dream. That is one of the most foundational pieces, whether you're metaphysics, Hinduism, Buddhism, Native American, Peruvian shamanism from the Andes down to the jungles in Peru, all the way around the world to Siberia, Celtic shamanism, you name it, you'll find that that principle is as solid a universal principle as anywhere. So, on a soul level, we're at a crossroads to hype it up, or to not, that's not the right language, to kick it up in terms of owning our reality and that we're 100% responsible. So that's kind of ugly when you look at what's going on around us right now. We've got political unrest, we've got racial unrest, we've got inflation and fear of financial unrest and things falling apart. And these times really are about clearing out all the places where things haven't worked, where they haven't been equitable for all people, where they haven't been equitable for yourself in your spiritual, your emotional, your mental, and your physical self, let alone for your neighbor and the person in India or the person in southern New Mexico or in any place in the world. That we have a time where we need to look at ourselves and we need to clear out the suffering and the pain so that we can come back in harmony. And then we can be in harmony with our brother and sister of every color, every race, every sexual orientation or identity. And we can come home to peace. So shamanism has a place with that right now. Part of my talk today is about shamanism and creativity. The book I just wrote, Artist Shaman Healer Sage, is all about activating these various archetypes within yourself and understanding shamanic mapping systems, literally that we've been given a map through various spiritual practices and teachings to live during these times of chaos, to actually know how to ground ourselves, to be spiritual within this physical reality, and to bring the light into this reality so that we're more awake. And that every teaching that I've embraced from metaphysics to shamanism gives us a mapping system. The teachers I've worked with for quite a few years now understand that these maps have everything from a map from the medicine wheel to help us understand cycles so that we can understand where we are in our creation model, what we need to do different, what to let go of, what to add to our situation or to create more harmoniously. But we also have the map of the body. I learned a shamanic mapping system from the bones all the way through to the organs and to every part of our being that, if you break a bone with some of the shamanic mapping system I learned in the body, it gives you an understanding of what you were breaking or letting go of. It also gives you some practices that you can do to clear your energy, clear the things that are not harmonious, so you don't break your bones, that you can break a stick, that you can break the energy so that you're more harmonious and you come home to yourself. And that's part of what was attractive to me about stepping onto the shamanic path, was finding that Mother Nature and the indigenous peoples that I've studied with had a lot of additional practices about getting home to myself, being in my body, and being at peace once again. I grew up in Oklahoma. I live in Colorado now. I feel very fortunate to be in this state. But I grew up in Oklahoma, and we actually had a farm when I was a kid. And every time we'd go to the farm, we lived in Oklahoma City, but we'd go to the farm on the weekends. And it was always the place of peace, whether it be the horses or walking on the land or fishing in the ponds. There was always a sense of peace and harmony that I felt in our family, that I felt in myself. We go back to the city, and I didn't feel that. I felt it with my dogs, I felt it with the trees, but I didn't feel it in general in the city or surroundings. And I'd be curious if that's true for you too. Because some of the basics are that everything in our natural world, in Mother Earth and in the skies, in the cosmos, is filled with energy. It's filled with life force. It's filled with vibration. And that energy, according to the Andean people, the Karo, is called Sami. Many of you are in mind, body, spirit, energy practices. You also know it as chi or prana. It's life force. And one of the things that, there goes my dog. She's going to bring in some prana, some chi, some Sami with her voice. But one of the things that we need to do to stay healthy and well, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually and physically, is that we need to resource or fill our aura, fill our bodies, energy bodies and physical bodies, with life force, with light. And Mother Earth offers that: the trees, the waters, the fire, the wind, everything from the sun and the moon and the cosmos. It increases life force and energy. If we're inside at the computer all the time, if we're not getting out and taking walks, putting our hands in the dirt to garden, we're depleted if we are not doing breath work or something to bring in life force. If we're just breathing a little bit and we're not on the land, then most likely you're feeling the angst of humanity, your own angst, because you're living in a linear reality instead of that present moment reality. So let's go over a couple of things that shamanic principles that I've learned along the way that may speak to you. And I've made some notes for myself, make sure I talk about everything in this hour that we're together, to help you understand how you can get back to a balanced life. Shamanism is not just about nature, it's about the spirit in nature, it's about the divine in nature. Native Americans may call it Great Spirit. You'll find that there's many names for this energy and this relationship to the divine. I like to use the word divine or spirit to encompass the life force, the energy, the life-giving energy that's in nature and in the world of shamanism, the world of spirituality that comes through the natural world, that restores us when we've been out of balance, that brings us home to ourselves. So here's a couple of principles I want to share with you that I've learned over the years and have been working on practicing. I've been a shamanic practitioner for 14 years now. And it takes practice. It'll be a lifetime of practice here. So, shamanic mapping systems, let's start there. What are the maps? So, I find that universal principles and truths that I learned in metaphysics have been well defined through various peoples around the world in shamanism. Some of those maps are archetypal maps. So it might be the mapping system of animal totems and the spiritual meaning, their messages that come to you. It could be archangels. Now, some traditions don't work with archangels. They think that's Christian, but there's Christian shamanism. I swear to goodness there is. But also, archangels existed before Christianity. These light beings have been on this planet for a very long time. At one point, they were called the Watchers. They're these divine beings of light who've been here for a long time. There's also ascended masters who are also considered larger archetypal energies that are available to every one of us on this planet. So I work with Archangel Michael, I work with Buddha, I work with Christ, I work with all these different goddesses, and I work with Ganesha, who's the first shaman of the Himalayas, as well as many animal totems. I've got owl and jaguar medicine. You see it behind me in my painting that I did after I came home from a trip to Peru. There's plant medicines that are also your allies. So you've got animals, you've got plants, you've got stone beings that have consciousness, you've got water spirits that have consciousness, fairies that have consciousness. Imagine the clouds having consciousness, and the stars, and the moon, and the sun, all the birds. Imagine that the consciousness of the divine exists within all these various beings that can be accessed on a larger archetypal level as well as a personal level. I've got wolf as one of my totems, and it shows up through the dogs. I'm a dog person. It also shows up on some other larger archetypal levels that I carry in my own being, and it's reflected through astrology. Astrology is another archetypal map that is ever evolving, which I consider all these other maps as living maps, but they're ones that can help someone find their way and know where they are on their spirit journey and their earthly, what I call an earth walk, their spirit walk upon this planet. So it helps us. The soul has a purpose for being here. We chose our family. We chose the place in the United States or in India or Mexico or wherever we were incarnated for the lessons. We chose the heritage we came into, or the lack thereof, for the lessons and for the opportunities. And so everyone has their own journey, and it's really important to know that there is purpose for everything that we've chosen so far. And on some level, we have chosen the circumstances we've jumped into, not only for what we can learn, but also for what we can give to it. I found that as a healer, and many people who are healers chose difficult DNA or family circumstances, not just for what they would learn out of it, but for what they would give to it, that they had healing that they could offer to their family or to that DNA lineage to bring light, to bring peace and harmony. So that's one of the maps. The book that I wrote, Artist Shaman Healer Sage, also those are 4 archetypes that I work with a lot. The artist, the creative being, the one with a great imagination who's dreaming up the new reality and can be the editor. I'm a painter and an artist for a very long time in this lifetime. And I know that from the traditions and the teachers I've had along the way and the spiritual teachings that have come with the capacity for the talent as an artist is that I can put anything on canvas to represent or bring an energy through. But I also know if it's not quite right, I can edit. I can paint it out. I can put something different there. I can correct it. And that is life. That every one of us has an inner artisan, has an inner divine creator and architect for our lives. That when we begin to work with it and wake it up, we work with our curiosity and our creativity, is that anything is possible to shapeshift our lives. It's very connected to the archetype of the shapeshifter in shamanism, one who can change form, and that it requires the artisan and the shapeshifter work together. It's also the alchemist is the one who can take, a canvas and paints and create a third thing. It's like turning lead into gold. Is that with some intention and desire and curiosity, our creativity can lead us to solutions and creating a different reality, whether it be on a canvas or in the fabric of our lives with a new job, a different relationship, or just the transmutation of something that's a relationship, a job, a friendship that may not be working out, but you bring that alchemical energy into it and your curiosity and your intention. I'll guarantee you that potentiality will unfold into another thing. One of the other archetypes that I believe honestly is accessible to all of us is the inner shaman. Now, please believe me that I am not telling you to go take a class to become a shaman. I actually will discourage you from that. If you want to learn about shamanism and become a shamanic practitioner, I will encourage that all day long, because that is to learn to practice shamanic practices. Shamans, I absolutely respect the path of shamanism and who becomes a shaman, typically for indigenous people and people who grew up in a shamanic culture. Too many white people, too many people who did not grow up in the culture take a weekend class and put the label of shaman on them. And I say beware, because you can't certify a shaman. It is a spiritual path that is assigned to a soul. There are many trials and tribulations for a shamanic person to truly arrive. Doesn't mean that you don't have that within you, but humility is one of the biggest things that goes along with this title. And that most shamans I know don't call themselves that. People recognize who they are and they honor them as that. So give up the title of shaman and work on invoking the inner shaman. Who is the inner shaman? Who is that part? Just like the artisan is pretty easy to identify that creative part. Well, the inner shaman, that word literally means to see through the darkness. So this is a very fierce and awake part of you who can call BS on all the illusion of the personality. That gets into ego, that gets into look at me, look who I am. It's not about that. The shaman can pierce through the illusion of what creates a lack of harmony in this world. Our world is at odds right now in so many ways, and there's a lot of ego flying around about who's right and who's wrong. Well, the shaman can see through all that. It can see all the distorted patterns, as well as can move through the inner dimensions with its totem animals, with its jaguar or its owl or its eagle medicine, and go help do soul retrieval, get any lost aspects of a person's essence that's been disconnected because of trauma. The inner shaman is the one who's awake, who's filled with wisdom and light, who is benevolent but fierce at the same time, has looked at death in the eyes, has gone through a ton of initiations, and been able to go through the shadows of life and bring in the light. Often shamans in this life have gone through near-death experiences, illness, loss of a loved one, a family member who's close to them. This caused incredibly deep cracks in the psyche. And even some shamans have survived a lightning strike. So imagine there's a part of you who's pretty amazing at going through the tough stuff at life, who ultimately is connected to spirit, that brings in light, unconditional love and acceptance, the divine, into the circumstances, into the emotional difficulties, into the mental difficulties that are cracking you up. and brings you a spiritual perspective and lifts you up to see clearly what your human life is about. Your inner shaman transcends your earthly life and brings together the divine into the earthly self. So, this is a very important part. This is something that many are working on right now in various ways to find the way to activate their inner shaman to transform and transcend this earthly experience into a spiritual experience. So, Artist Shaman Healer Sage. The healer and the sage are very connected to the artist and the shaman inner selves. So, the healer is the one who takes 100% responsibility for what they've created. If they've created difficulty, if they've had trauma and fright and fear show up in their lives, the inner healer part opens and is the hollow bone or the vessel for the divine to come through to purify these human experiences that are born of separation, that are born of trauma, through unconditional love and acceptance, through these higher vibrations of energy that can actually come into and penetrate the physical reality, the emotional body, the mental body, to restore it, to bring energy back, to transcend again the separation of our earthly, physical, mental, and emotional selves from our spiritual selves. That's what creates illness, is when we've been frightened or traumatized. And our inner healer literally is purified of ego and becomes the hollow reed or the hollow bone for spirit to run through us. Now, the illness can be an initiation to awakening your inner healer. Loss, grief can be an incredible initiation for the healer to awaken. It's also, I want to say something very important that, I've been in this metaphysical spiritual realm for the last 40 some odd years. I'm 63 now. And, I've come a long way in the process, I would hope. And I've seen a lot of people in the spiritual realm oftentimes think they're going to heal another person. And this is important to say along with this process of the inner healer awakening is that we heal ourselves and we raise our vibration. We become more full of light. And we don't do anything to anyone else for them to heal. Everyone needs to heal. Everyone needs to take responsibility in their journey. First of all, to ask for help. One of the first questions I ask when I work with people is, are you ready to heal? And they've got to give me a yes. Because even just that little question and them saying yes, some part of them steps up to take responsibility for any choices, that, whether it be changing their diet, just being open in their hearts and their energies, surrendering to the fight that they've been in that's created disharmony, is that there needs to be a participation of others in their healing process. Otherwise, it won't really happen. So the inner healer is that part of you that's on board 100% for seeing the patterns that keep you out of harmony. Shamanism is about restoring harmony where there's been a lack thereof. And that's where the natural world and the spirit world comes in, is that we want to bring all those influences in to restore you at your core, and that these are all allies for you to restore your harmony. So the inner healer has a lot of allies, totem helpers, angels, fierce guides and helpers who support her or him in restoring her energy. And from that place, our light, our aura, our brightness restores, and it influences everything in our outer reality. So the inner shaman and the inner healer are very connected, as well as the artisan. They're all related, and just different ways that we express them. So the inner healer can be the alchemist also at transforming situations in our lives, knowing that they're not finite, that ultimately if things are out of balance and we take action, we own up to our responsibility for ourselves, we learn the process of transmutation and alchemy and then life becomes different. We become the shapeshifter of our lives. So there's many shamanic practices to help us activate that. So the last one in the title of my book is Sage, the Sage archetype. It's the wise woman or the wise man. It's often the storyteller, or possibly even the contrary. I talk about clown medicine and Hayoka medicine that can be carried in the midst of the sage. Many sages, these wise ones, often elders, are ones who've been through it all. And they're able to step back and find the humor in all the things that have happened in their lives. And so they become great storytellers. And in the process, not only the story, but they become somewhat of a contrary. They bring light where there's darkness and seriousness. You know, the sacred clown, which is one aspect I identify in the sage part of the book and the archetype and accessing that in yourself, you know, is a medicine that I didn't know I had when I was younger. I was very serious. And my brothers were jokesters. My dad was a jokester. I didn't think it was funny. I was the sensitive, the empath, and I didn't really like that. It's taken many years of cleaning out hurt, pain, trauma, and all that through my journeys to find a sense of humor for it all, to find the story of just humor that comes in through the sacred clown. And with that, let me tell a little story to go in this teaching time to break things up instead of just a discourse of what we're up to. It's very interesting in that, you know, as much as I look at Native American shamanism and the Hayoka or the sacred clown, um, I had the great opportunity of painting the Mythical Goddess Tarot and learning all these mythologies, the 22 goddesses, then painting the 4 elements that are in the deck. So a total of 78 cards plus the back. But most of all, it wasn't just a painting, it was embodying the story. And a beautiful Shinto goddess, Uzume, um, she is the sacred clown or the fool card in our tarot deck. And I want to bring that in because I did put that in my book in this section about the sacred clown and the sage aspect of who we are. I mean, the sage is the wise person. And so that wise person is able to truly chuckle at these human crazy experiences. Haven't you looked at the news sometimes and gone like, oh my God, this is insane? You know, but not just been like freaked out by it, but kind of like having a chuckle that's a little nuts. So Uzume is that goddess of laughter and mirth. She's considered a lesser goddess of laughter and mirth. And you can't tell her story of being the sacred clown without talking about this beautiful top goddess, Amaterasu, who's the sun goddess in Shintoism. In all the studies that I've had, I'm not aware of any other sun goddesses. There's often sun gods, but that solar medicine being feminine instead of masculine. So let me tell you about Amaterasu so we can tell the whole story. Amaterasu is this beautiful sun goddess who gives life. The world is full of growth. It's beautiful. There's plants, there's everything, there's warmth. You know, everything in the world is growing because Amaterasu shines her light. She brings beauty. And all the gods and goddesses and people on the earth are so happy because she gives them so much life. Well, one day, Amaterasu and her brother, the storm god, got angry with one another. And Amaterasu got so upset, she went into a cave and would not come out. So the world went dark. Well, immediately the gods and goddesses all tried to get Amaterasu out of the cave. Well, that wasn't happening. She was stubborn. She was upset. She had rolled a big old stone across the covering of the cave and would not come out. So pretty soon the gods and goddesses were getting cold and it was dark and they were so upset they built a campfire. So they all gathered around the campfire and were lamenting. They were crying. They were wailing. It was terrible. They were like, oh! And they were pulling their hair out. It was so upset. And they were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? The world's gone dark. It's dying. Everything's dying. What are we going to do? Ah! It was terrible. So pretty soon, Uzume, the goddess of laughter and mirth, comes up to the fire and she puts a big old drum down and she looks around and she's like, they sure are being incredibly silly. So she gets up on top of her drum and she starts doing a striptease. And she's like showing it all. She's stripping it off, being a wild dancer, and all the gods and goddesses start to giggle. And then pretty soon she gets wilder with every sound they make. And so the laughter and the uproar goes bigger and bigger. They're crying, they're laughing so hard because she's so lewd and she's so crazy in her dance. She's totally helped them forget their worries. They're crying now in laughter. And it's just a party now. The more they laugh, the crazier she gets. So in the cave, Amaterasu can hear what's going on, and she's thinking, what is going on out there? And so pretty soon, she's got a case of FOMO. She's got a fear of missing out. She can't stand it. So she comes out of the cave, and the light comes back. So this is some of the energy of the sacred clown to actually help you get out of the darkness of your worry, of the finite experience you're going through. That will change eventually, to help you get a different perspective and to let go and be present and to bring in the laughter, the lightness of the heart, the lightness of the spirit. And the sun will come back, the light will come back when you do. So Uzume is this great sacred clown. And as you noticed, being a wise one, a storyteller helps the whole tribe learn stories that help them embrace this. I hope you got a teaching out of that. So the sage is a very important archetype that all of us get to come to, whether it be in older age. You don't have to have older age to be a wise one. This is something you can cultivate at any age as you sit back and reflect upon your journeys. So that's important. You know, other archetypes that you may have are let's see, what are some other archetypes? Scholar is an archetype. Warrior is an archetype. Um, Many different archetypes that you may work with, but these are some very specific ones I've engaged in my teachings on shamanism to help you with some foundational ones. I actually, when I wrote the book and I was going through each one, I also saw that that archetypal flow of the artist, the shaman, the healer, and the sage could easily overflow into the medicine wheel. Now, the medicine wheel is a very big mapping system for shamanism. And it's not just in North America, even though that's more of how I've learned it, is from Native American tribes from North America through my teachers. But it's also, there's many different teachings around the medicine wheel around the world. It may not be called the medicine wheel, it might be called the circle of life, working with the elements. So we have the spirit of the East and working with the rising sun in North America. It is the symbol of possibility and potential, new life, a new day. The East is like the morning sun as well as the springtime. So it's symbolic of that childlike wonderment, potential, and possibility. It's the place where we plant our seeds of intention. So it's very good to do ceremony and ritual around calling in the East, asking it to be our helper and our ally, planting seeds of potential that we want to bring into our lives. Then you move into the South. And the South in the medicine wheel is the place of the heart. It's the place of the sun at the summer, the highest place in the summer where that sun is bright. And our our sun in the sky is like the physical presence of our spiritual sun, the central sun. So it's very important about illumination, awakening our hearts with light, awakening all of our lives through light and illumination. It's the place of the heart. It's a place of tribe. It's a place of learning better boundaries or creating containers for what you're growing and keeping them pristine with good boundaries, clarity, pulling the weeds that get in the way of you manifesting your dreams. But imagine that's the part where all those seeds you planted in the East are coming up above the ground for you to give attention to, for you to nurture. So that's another aspect. And imagine the wheel just flows, and it could be many different parts going on in your life at the same time. Then we have the West in the medicine wheel. And the West is the map of completion. It is the end of the day before you go into night. It is the time of autumn in North America. It is the time of truly gathering the goods, the harvest from all of your garden that you've been growing, and really appreciating, saying thank you, being grateful for all that you've brought in and created in your life, whether it be a season, a day, or a lifetime. That there are cycles, and this is teaching you about harvest and then graduation. And that graduation is actually the time of death, the time of releasing, the time of endings. So I got somebody calling me in there, I apologize. The West is the time of actually letting the energy in from graduation, celebrating, and then being complete and done, where you're able to compost everything that you've picked from your garden. You know, the plants that are at the end of their season, the cycles of a relationship, the cycles of a job, the cycles of your body, the cycles, whatever they happen to be, is just recognizing when it's time to move on and let go of the past, let go of what has been in form, so that you can go back inward and be at peace again. You know, there's some very powerful allies that I like to call on in the West. And this is all this information, once you understand it and begin working with it, you can use this in this reality right now to help you manifest or to change, alchemize the life you're living in this modern world. You know, if you've graduated from a job, it's really good to know how to clean out all that stuff that was left over. Anytime you're disgruntled, anytime you're out of harmony, the West is really good at helping you clean. And there's many different practices, ceremonies to release, ceremonies to clean out the mind, the emotions, the body, and the spirit, and then to bring life force back in, to return, to reset you. So that's really important thing as I'm talking about these maps, is that once you understand them, there's ways to integrate them, whether you live in a city or you live in the country, that this is all viable, valuable information to help you restore your mind, your body, your spirit, every part of you, that you can live in greater harmony and peace. I found this very practical and restorative after 20 some odd years of metaphysical studies and things that have worked for a long time. Just another layer of really helping me. So then we have the North. Once you've gone through and graduated or ended your day, said your blessings and gratitudes and let go of what has been, you go into the North, you go into the night, you go into the wintertime. You go into a place where, as you complete, you grab all that wisdom and good and gold from what you've experienced and you go to sleep. You go into a place of restoration and dream time. You go into the place where you're not in the physical reality, you go inward into the place of possibility and potential. The North connects to the East in the great void, the place of dreams and dream time. It's the place where healing happens. You know, and I, growing up in the United States and this linear production model that we seem to have going on, it seems really hard for most people to stop and to chill out, or they get into addiction. And it's like, to be in balance, we need to rest. We need to sit and enjoy the evening. We need to sit and reflect upon what we've just created. That's where we get wise and that's where we get restored. If you want to create something new after leaving a job or a relationship or a certain situation, you need in between time. If you jump right back on the bandwagon, how much have you learned and changed from your last experience? Are you just jumping into the same thing with different people? So it's really important to embrace the North in our lives. Now, in the medicine wheel, we also have above Father Sky, the heavenly realms, below Mother Earth and all her medicines. So the map of the medicine, and in the center, which represents Great Spirit and represents all of creation, and that truly within you is that medicine. All right, so How are we doing on time here? All right. So I got about 15 more minutes left in this presentation. I'm covering a lot that's within my book, Artist Shaman Healer Sage, as well as some of the basics that I've learned over the years that I turn around and teach in a course online and in person, Artist Shaman Healer Sage. So, some of the other basics here are that there is medicine within all life, that you have your own personal medicine. We call it shamanic medicine. I've said the word medicine throughout here. It's not a pill. It's not something outside yourself, unless you're looking at the medicine of a plant, the medicine of an animal. It's like the power of the essence of each animal, bird, plant, stone, or person. So you have your own medicine. You got your own mojo, your own power. You've got your gifts. You've got your way in the world that brings light, that brings healing to self and to just being present with others, that you light up your life. If you don't feel your medicine right now, it's time to ground yourself. It's time to take a walk in nature. It's time to call for help from your allies, your guides, your ancestors. So let me name some medicines that you can look to in your world, in the natural world, that can help you restore your energy, your presence of knowing yourself, your own personal medicine, and the medicine of great spirit of the divine that wants to come into and through you. So, the medicine of animals, your totem animals, your spirit animals. So, look around. Who do you see every day? It's very easy to do a prayer to say, spirit guides, helpers, angels, allies, ancestors, totem animals, birds, plants, all of you all, who's here to help me today? What can you do to support me in being present to the gifts that are available, the energies that are available to help me be at peace, enjoy, and be empowered again? And then be like a little kid. Here's one of my little allies, my dog here, Sophie. She's one of my helpers. She's my shaman dog. So one of the things that you can do is, go take a walk in nature and ask for the medicine of Mother Earth and Father Sky to appear to you today. And then as you walk, be mindful. Do your best to be grounded and present in the moment. And then walk through nature and just observe. Is it a tree that calls you? Is there a raven or a crow up there? Did a hawk fly by? Did a squirrel go by? Notice what's in your environment that seems to be speaking to you. They'll be there. And, if you're walking unconscious, you could take a walk, have your Walkman, that's an old term, have your music on and never notice. You could just be thinking about everything in your life and never notice. So take off your headphones or your earbuds, leave your worries behind, and pay attention to that tree and to each thing on your walk. And I'll guarantee you that there will be a bird, an animal, a creature, a plant, a stone that talks to you, and ask it what it has to tell you. You can cultivate this very easily and ask it to help you bring in medicine or energy messages that support you. Raven is one of my allies. Owl is one of my allies. Jaguar is one of my allies. Plus a myriad of plants who all sing to me, who all talk to me, along with angels and other beings. In the beginning, I wasn't aware of them. But some of the synchronicities, which is another teaching in shamanism, is that there are no mistakes. Everything is perfect and synchronistic. That when you begin to use your intention to imagine and wonder how good it can get or how you can get a message, it'll come. It could be a feather floating in, and you go, look at that feather. And one of the first things that happened to me on the shamanic path, I went on a retreat. And it was a 10-day retreat, and I met this woman. I don't even know her name now. We met once. And as we're on the path of this 10 days together and interactions, about halfway through, she came up to me and she gifted me an owl feather. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, are you sure? She said, I brought it from me, but I realized this is your medicine. I was blown away. In that gift of that owl feather, she was honoring some part of me that I was unaware of at the time. Now, as I look back through my journey back in all the way back into the 90s when I had a store and started doing visionary art for the first time, and one of the first paintings I had is owl was in that painting. And I thought, it must be one of my totem animals. Well, years later, I can guarantee you that owl is one of the very powerful medicines that is one of my very main totems. It can be a totem of a healer. It's considered the night eagle. It's very good at clearing fear. It's very good at using for extraction work and clearing difficult energies in your own self or others. And it can help bring great awareness and awakening within the mystery of life, within the challenges or the illusion of this earthly world. So begin to look for your medicine and look for your totems, call them in, and that will help you start to understand and reclaim parts of yourself and energy. And this is part of what people need right now is to recognize they have a lot of helpers that can come in and support them. All right. One of the other things that I want to talk about is there is an ordinary reality and a non-ordinary reality, meaning there's everyday ordinary life. Go to a job, make some money, come home, pay your bills, have dinner, go to bed, pay your taxes, get older, die. Well, that's kind of boring. And maybe there's some excitement in there. But that's ordinary world where it seems devoid of spirit. It's just this linear process. But when you begin to wake up spiritually and on the shamanic path, there's the non ordinary reality or the spirit world, knowing that there's spirit in all life on this planet, that there's spirit in the cosmos, that there's spirit in a bigger reality and purpose behind all this dream here, that you can start seeing the matrix of this life and all the purpose and all the abilities to start transforming and changing when you work with the non ordinary or spirit aspect of your physical life. So that's a big deal that, weaving in your spiritual life through the workings within your ordinary reality, knowing you're the magician. That's another aspect or a archetype that you can work with is this shamanic magician healer person who shapeshifts your reality and is not stuck in just a linear flow that ends without all the stories being told or all the fun, all the joy. So, what else shall I tell you? Let me talk about some very beautiful people that I know. I'm going to talk about two people that I've studied with from the world of shamanism in South America. Um, One of the peoples that I've studied with the most are the Shipibo. They are a beautiful tribe of indigenous people in the Amazon basin in Peru, in the jungles of Peru. I've gone to work with Shipibo many, many times to drink their plant medicines, to do diets with plants. I've literally sat in the jungle 5, 6 times with different plants, drank them during the week, along with ayahuasca ceremonies that imbue these plant medicines into my field and work with me as allies and helpers based on these diets. I mean, with the first plant I dieted with, you're going to think I'm crazy, was tobacco. I don't recommend necessarily that you do anything like that. Please don't do it unless you have a shaman to walk you through it. But that was like this fierce ally of this male plant spirit I learned that imbued its medicine into me like fire. It's a fire medicine. But it helped protect me and it helped clean my energy. And its matrix actually works with my energy now as a helper and an ally. I call it in all the time to help me do healing work or to clean my aura. I mean, literally, that painting in the back came from my after my tobacco dieta in the jungles of Peru. There's a jaguar on it. There's the activation of the owl shaman and a healing, and it's part of the story of the 7 days in the jungle. So that was under the apprenticeship or tutelage of the Shipibo people. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more about them. They're not just a plant medicine people. There's a beautiful heart-centered group of Shipibo I've worked with, very matriarchal, familial family, balanced between male and female, and very wise. But they've just really helped me in so many ways come into my heart. Now, one of the things that they will teach you is that you're born as a song. They see life as um, a vibration. They're all indigenous peoples that I'm aware of are artisan cultures. They're creatives. They're right-brained. They see differently than this linear model. They live in the moment, and they see a song not only as a sound, but they understand it's a visual, a vibration, as well as can create form. So your thoughts, your dreams, your hopes, all are a song. And the more that you speak and open your mouth, you can sing your song into existence. And the Shipibo are very good at this. They know that if you get sick, you've most likely had a fright or a trauma that distorted your song, and that you got sick mentally, emotionally, physically, things are out of sorts, you can't make money, whatever it happens to be. They will sing back into you to clear the energy of the distortion and to bring harmony and peace into you. So there's some of my most favorite people. You can see in this painting, this is the reflection of the owl shaman singing into the woman, clearing her heart, clearing her solar plexus, and restoring her, transforming the energy with the medicine of jaguar in the nighttime all around, bringing in the mystery and transformation. So these are all some energies, even if you will never go to the jungles of Peru, I'll guarantee you that those medicines and teachings are coming into the United States now, coming into the world at large in various and sundry ways to restore us in our connectivity, that there's medicine available, that these teachings of being a song are available. Sound healing, it can be profound even if it doesn't come from a tradition of shamanism that you're aware of. Most likely it did, and you may or may not know that. That there are no mistakes, that everything is synchronistic. If you're watching this, there's no mistake. We need to connect. And that everything is connected. Everything you do, everything I do, creates a ripple in the world. You waking up, you coming more full in your heart, heals the world. Not because you tried to heal anyone, but because you became more illuminated, your vibration changed, and you can express and experience more love. And I find that is the deepest teaching any of us can go into, whether you call it shamanism, mysticism, spirituality, or just plain, oh, I just want to love more. I just want to be happier. So those are real foundational pieces that is really important to share with you. So I need to finish up here. I hope that just these basic teachings will interest you in getting my book, Artist Shaman Healer Sage, for yourself and all the people you're connected to. And that it's available through New Leaf or through Star Chalice Sisters, through my website, KatherineSkaggs.com. Let me help you out and give you some specials. If you get in touch, I'm happy to give you some amazing specials right now to bring that to more people and to make these teachings just very easy to access. I'm also the artist of the Mythical Goddess Tarot, which you can get on very special through Satyama Publishing. Go see Karen and make sure you get the Artist Shaman Healer Sage special. It's an award-winning, iconic deck. Really important that you check that out. You're going to find that it's something that has sold and sold and sold and is a bestseller. So if there's anything I can do for you, my name is Katherine Skaggs at KatherineSkaggs.com. Also StarChaliceSisters.com. Go and buy my goods at New Leaf New Leaf Distribution, and you'll be happy to know that we're just going to bring more light into the world together. So I want to thank you again. With much love and light, have a great day.